Good afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for another week of the EFL London show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon are Billy Mulley and Marcus Ally. Billy, how are you?
Yes, doing very well after Luton's win yesterday. And I think if they were 20 miles southern than they actually are, I think make this very, very interesting for me.
Yeah, Luton certainly did have themselves a very good evening on Wednesday. Marcus, how are you? Your team, who are in London, perhaps didn't have as good fortune earlier on this week as well.
Yeah, quite a bit of contrast in emotions, I think. I'm looking forward to getting this sort of midweek wrap behind us and looking ahead to the weekend.
All right, well, don't rush off too soon. Let's get through the show first of all. People at home, people wherever you're watching, do get in touch with us. We're across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. There's comment sections there, so let us know your thoughts. Anything London related, we're here for the next 20 or so minutes live. As we said, Charlton, Marcus's team, not doing too great, and that's who we kick off with on this EFL London show this week. Yeah, Marcus, I'm afraid we're going to have to start with matters at the Valley. Obviously, Charlton hosted Bolton earlier this week. I was there watching the game for Football League World. The Addicts did actually take the lead via Josh Davison. Started off very well. The atmosphere was good at the Valley, but just before half-time, Dapo Ally got Bolton back into it. And in the second half, although it was even to start with, Bolton gradually got themselves a foothold in the game. The nerves went up at the Valley. And once the second goal went in for the Trotters, Charlton effectively capitulated, and by the end of the game, there was a lot of fans, or the fans that were remaining in the ground, letting Nigel Adkins know exactly what they thought of him. Marcus, let's come to you straight away. What did you make of the game, first of all? What did you make of the performance? The first half was quite positive, but then obviously the second half, things just fell apart, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I expected Bolton to be a really good side, and they were having a lot of possession. Ian Everts clearly got them buying into his way of thinking. And yeah, it was a really positive first half performance. Last midweek at Gillingham, Charlton took the lead and then were susceptible to conceding an equaliser, and then ended up clinging on a little bit to that 1-1 draw. And it was a bit like that in this matchup, apart from in the closing exchanges, they really were wide open. I think Dapo Ally was absolute quality down the left flank. Adam Matthews will be seeing him in his sleep, the Charlton right back, cutting in on his right foot and smashing into the far corner for that equaliser. And it was a tough time to score for Charlton to take. It completely changes that half-time team talk for Nigel Adkins. Could have been going in 1-0 up, and then obviously all the momentum with the away side going into the break. On the performance for Charlton, we've seen them in glimpses this season show what they're capable of, and that first, I'd say, 40 minutes against Bolton did show that the capabilities of a side that's more than capable of getting out of this mess and competing higher up in the table, but it could not sustain it. You saw the fragile confidence after Bolton took the lead, and yeah, you could really tell that the players were struggling for ideas. The substitutions from the bench didn't make any difference from Adkins. Charlton were going quite direct at the end and were very susceptible on the counter-attack. But I think after lean back on Oladapo Ally, and what a signing he's been this summer. Obviously, he was on loan at Bolton at the end of last season and was definitely man of the match for me, and a player that I think will be applying his trade much higher than League One in years to come.
As for Adkins, Marcus, we're on Thursday now. It was Tuesday night where he was getting dog's abuse, really. Some of the chants I can repeat were the likes of you getting sacked in the morning and we want Adkins out. To me, it's a little bit of a surprise that he's still there. I can only imagine that Thomas Sandgaard has looked at the weekend, and obviously Fleetwood are quite low down on the table as well. And maybe he's just got this last chance saloon, get a win at Fleetwood, and maybe Charlton can try and kick on it and build on that. Is that how you feel now and how you see it, or do you think Adkins should have been gone by now?
Yeah, personally, I think he should have gone after Wickham about 3 or 4 games ago. It is a surprise. A lot of people say give 10 games at the start of the season to assess a manager. Obviously, Nigel Adkins had a bit of credit in the bank from a decent run at the back end of last season. But the opening 10 games, 1 win, 3 draws, 6 losses, and you're 4 points from safety, sitting second bottom in League One. For a club with promotion aspirations, it is pretty stunning to see the manager still in a job. That would all suggest that, as you say, last chance saloon on Saturday. However, I'm not sure. Still because of the sample size and Thomas Sandgaard hasn't had to sack a manager yet. We don't really know how thin his patience is getting, but you would expect that that a loss against the COD Army on Saturday would be even more difficult than the 4-1 defeat on Tuesday night for Adkins to walk out still with a job.
Certainly difficult times for Charlton, Adkins and everyone connected with the club. Hopefully for their sake, for your sake as well, Marcus, they will get a positive result against Fleetwood this weekend. Speaking of positive results, that's what we're going to get into now, and we're going to start with the Championship and Fulham. I was at Craven Cottage on Wednesday night to watch Fulham beat Swansea 3-1. It was 3-1 by the break, thanks to a hat-trick from Alexander Mitrovic. Billy, let's come to you on this one. I think it's always quite telling that a team like Fulham, they're always going to create chances, as they did in the last couple of games against the likes of Reading and Bristol City, but didn't really get the rewards they perhaps felt they should have. But with a striker like Alexander Mitrovic up top, it seems like it's only a matter of time before Fulham are going to get back to winning ways when they do go through slight ruts.
Exactly that. When you have Mitrovic in the side, there's not going to be too many games that he doesn't go scoring in, and I think that's exactly what happened against Swansea. Frustrated, obviously, not to net in the games prior to that, but yeah, he was back with a bang. And if you actually look at all three of the goals individually, they're excellent finishes, stuff that we associate with him because of obviously what we've grown accustomed to. 10 goals in 10 games at the start of the season. I think he'll be viewing Ivan Toney's record of last year of 31 goals. He'll be setting his sights on that, and right now that is attainable. But I think with Fulham as well, they're consistently going to create the chances for him. It's the talent they've got around him. It makes it a lot easier for him in that side to score as many goals as he does, and will continue to this season. And likes of Cabano had a brilliant game. I think Reed as well. He always continues to impress me. And defensively, they defended well against the Swansea side that are looking like they've sort of turned a corner since that Luton game, which I don't really want to go too into. But the manner in how they got back into the game has really helped them progress. And I think what we're seeing with Swansea now is that they're buying into Russell Martin's style of football, and even in defeat against Fulham, that they looked good and were beaten by the clinical nature of Alexander Mitrovic.
I think it's certainly telling as well that Fulham seemed quite happy to let Swansea have the ball under Russell Martin's playing style. Fulham had 37% possession, but it's what you do with it. And I think it also shows that, yes, obviously Marco Silva likes to have possession, and Fulham are going to have plenty of the ball in plenty of their games this year, but it shows that they can be just as effective without the ball. Obviously scoring 3 goals, very good swift attacks, at least the second 2. Well, obviously the first was a header back into the box from Tim Ream, but Fulham looking particularly strong, getting back to winning ways. Another team that got back to winning ways was another West London club, and that was QPR. Rangers beat Birmingham 2-0 early this week. Elias Chair at the double for the Hoops. Marcus, there wasn't really panic stations for QPR. They've been going really well so far this season, doing well in the Carabao Cup as well. But just, results had sort of got a little bit sketchy in recent weeks. So I think it's a really important win to get back to winning ways in the league.
Yeah, obviously they have been very strong at the Kind Prince this season. But yeah, it was 3 losses in a row coming into this one in the league. So yeah, it was important. All by a 2-1 scoreline, I think it was. So the narrow margins, it was only a matter of time before they turned it around. Obviously, Ilias Chair will take the headlines for this one. A nice double. The Moroccan has been on fire in the last couple of seasons for QPR, and really has stepped up to the plate since the high-profile exes of the likes of Abere Eze and Bright Asay Samuel. So yeah, Mark Warburton will be really pleased. It gets QPR just looking up the table once again. I think one of the key changes that Warburton made for this match was Chris Willock actually came in and played on at left wing back. Sam McCallum had got injured against Everton in the Cup the week before, so it's a bit of a problem position going into the next few fixtures. Johan Barbe played there against West Brom, and they're a little bit weaker. Willock, one of the creative players, and is actually right-footed, playing over at left wing-back, was maybe a bit of a risk. Showed a courageous selection from Mark Warburton, and it did pay dividends. And it obviously enabled him to play both Lyndon Dykes and Charlie Austin up front, which really worked. And they were a constant threat. A bit of more of an even game, this one, I think. Birmingham can take plenty of positives from the performance, but yeah, a good momentum building win. And Ilias Chair is deadly at this level at the moment. He could be linked with some higher profile clubs in January, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point on Ilias Chair. I mean, you look at the likes of Easy and Asai Samuel that come through in recent years, and they seem to have that sort of last formative campaign, or in Asai Samuel's half campaign before they got a move away from QPR. And Billy, do you think this could be the one for Chair? Obviously, he's showing, particularly on Tuesday, the kind of quality he's got at this level. Could this be the season that gets in that big move at the end of the year? Obviously, QPR will want to try and take him to the Premier League with them, but that's not always a guarantee.
Yeah, I definitely agree in the fact that he's becoming more influential, and it sort of follows that trend, as you say, with Asai Samuel and Eze as well, in terms of departing after such a brilliant season. And I think with Chair as well, everything at the moment comes through him. He's orchestrating the majority of attacks. His ability to get the ball in tight scenarios and sort of feed his attackers and progress the play is something that, as we said before, Reze did, say Samuel did, and it seems that there's like a similar trend going on with QPR in the fact how they sort of generate their midfielders. And I think a lot of credit has gone to Chair, but I think Willock as well. Obviously, he moved into this left wing back role for this game, but I think when they're both playing together in sort of a more attack midfield sort of role, they're frightening. And a lot has been spoken about the forward three now, with Andre Gray also partnering Dykes and Austin as Warburton's forward options. But the supply they're getting from the likes of Chair, from Johansson and from Willock as well is something that every forward would be dreaming of. And then we go back to their defence with the likes of Dickey, Device and Barbe when he has been operating at centre-back. They're just a very, very strong team. And it's hard not to praise them at the moment because of what they are doing on the football pitch.
Certainly competing in every game. Good to see Rangers getting back to winning ways. One final result from the Championship midweek action involving a London club, and that was Millwall getting back to winning ways themselves against Bristol City. A much needed result as well, wasn't it, Marcus? A lot's been made of Millwall drawing pretty much every game going, but 3 points against Bristol City at the New Den earlier this week. Jed Wallace scoring from the spot. They probably won't mind the fact that it hasn't come from open play, that goal. They just needed to get a win on the board, didn't they?
Yeah, it suddenly changes the whole outlook of Millwall Football Club. I think this win, often, it might feel like a small pick up 3 points in midweek, and Jed Wallace obviously coming off the bench has had some fitness concerns. Millwall fans would have been worried going into this match. Obviously, Bristol City been in some excellent form on the road as well. But just getting this win, I feel like could really see them kick on in the weeks to come. It was 1 win in 9. Now they've only lost two in their 10 opening league games. Obviously, the draw specialists, as we know. But just getting that first win in a while over the line could be a huge boost, and see them improve on their travels probably in the weeks to come. Benica Fobe was a threat, won the penalty against his former club, and getting some confidence into him will be key for Ralston moving forward.
I guess, Billy, the positive has to be for Millwall, though, has to be whilst they've drawn a lot of games, they haven't lost many. So they're showing that they're hard to beat. They just need to find that cutting edge a little bit more.
Yeah, as Marcus alluded to there, it's 2 out of 10 losses, but at the same time, 2 out of 10 wins. So it depends which kind of way you want to look at it. And I guess after that win, you'll be looking at the 2 out of 10 losses, because it will be a lot more positivity going around at the moment. And I think that's 6 games without defeat. So they are proving to be tough to beat. And as we say before, the sort of over-reliance on Jed Wallace, and that again seemed to be the case. I know Sheyi Ojo came in a more central role and looked like he can actually become sort of that creative spark if Wallace does depart soon. But at the same time, I think there needs to be more areas of the pitch where they're creating from. Obviously, you've got that solid defence. I think Ballard coming in has been an excellent addition. Done very well at Blackpool last year, doing very well for Northern Ireland, and now he's looking like a very strong Championship defender. With Millwall, I think what we're going to see is a lot more draws, a lot more tight games, and it's just having that cutting edge, as you say, and having players like Wallace. And when Ojo's fully firing, I think that we'll start to see a few of those draws turn into wins.
Okay, certainly something to build on though. For Millwall, 1-0 win over Bristol City earlier this week. One final result to touch on from the midweek action, and that's in League One, and that's Wimbledon's defeat at Rotherham. Michael Smith double followed a Will Grigg opener to give the Millers a 3-0 victory against Wimbledon. It's 3 losses on the spin now for the Dons, so a little bit of momentum from the sort of the early stages of the campaign has been lost, Marcus. But I guess, there's going to be these peaks and troughs in the League One season, and for Wimbledon, it's just all about getting back onto one of those peaks sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Robinson will be too concerned. I think he would have been well aware that it was a little unsustainable, the amount of goals they were scoring at the start of the season. Now it's only 1 in their last 4 if you do include the Arsenal Cup tie. So we'll be looking to rectify that in the coming weeks. But yeah, Rotherham are a good side. There's no need to, I think, go too harsh on Wimbledon losing a match at Rotherham under the lights. They've got some decent operators and some players that could easily be applying their trade in the Championship, and a decent manager in Paul Warne, of course. And they'll have much more lofty aspirations than Wimbledon this season. It's still been a good start. Some supporters could be looking over their shoulders a touch, having had some struggles in recent years. They're now only 4 points above the relegation zone, but they'll be looking to make amends and pick something up against Burton Albion this weekend. So some concerning stats, but I think they'll know and would have drawn the confidence from the early performances in the season that they can definitely turn this run around.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the only thing, Billy, really that Mark Robinson will want to work on, particularly with Wimbledon, is just that defensive record. Obviously, another 3 goals shipped in the week. They've conceded the second most in the league so far this season. 18 goals have gone in the wrong end. Obviously, earlier on in the year, they were just outscoring teams, so it wasn't much of a problem. But now that's dried up a little bit in front of goal. It's just all about trying to get that balance back, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. They were scoring for fun, conceding for fun, and as you say, they were winning matches by outscoring their opponents, and that's where the full focus was on. I think with Wimbledon as well, they're playing a lot more expansive football this year, and I think that comes at the cost of conceding more. So in that respect, it's not too concerning because it's all part of the ultimate game plan. Mark Robinson's still learning his trade, really. And as you say, some of the more pessimistic fans will be looking over their shoulders, but I think the majority of Wimbledon fans, at the moment will be just appreciating the style of football and not being too concerned by a little bit of a run. It's a bit of a test of character now. How can they sort of resolve this situation that they're in? They might have to go a bit more direct, and then this expansive football might have to go on hold just to ensure that they can get back to winning ways. But in terms of it being concerning, I don't think so. I don't think there's any root for concern whatsoever.
Okay, we will see how Wimbledon go about bouncing back from their few defeats in a row. Let's look ahead then before we go to the weekend's action. And let's start with fixtures in the Championship, as we always do. Fulham are travelling to Coventry, and obviously, Billy, you saw Coventry last night getting a bit of a pasting at Luton. The Sky Blues will obviously be looking to bounce back, but it's going to be a very tough test against a Fulham team that's obviously, as we touched on, back to winning ways.
Yeah, very difficult game for them after the sort of misery that they endured yesterday. It was not much positivity whatsoever when looking at that Coventry performance. But the only thing that they can take into the game with Fulham is that their home record has been so impressive, and away from home it hasn't. And it seems to be 2 polar opposites at the moment. Coventry have won 5 out of 5 at the Coventry Building Society Arena. And that's something that will give them great confidence of bouncing back really quickly. As I said, it's not the ideal opponents to be playing against, especially with Mitrovic firing like he did during this week. I think that the amount of opportunities that Coventry afforded Luton, if they do that against Fulham, it could be another very heavy score. But at the same time, going back to home, back on home soil, a few tweaks probably needed. They named an unchanged side against Luton that beat Peterborough. So I think there's a case for freshening it up. Fulham, though, they are looking very good again. They might it might sort of follow a similar pattern where they don't see as much possession and break out like they did, and that will definitely cause Coventry problems, because that's what Luton did and found success that way.
What's your score prediction for this one, Billy?
I'm going to go 3-1 to Fulham.
Okay, I'm going to go 3-2 to Fulham. Marcus, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Billy. 3-1 Fulham. I think the Cottagers could smell blood. It's got to take a hit on your confidence going down 5-0 in midweek, no matter how well you've been doing in the season leading up to that. So yeah, 3-1 Fulham for me.
All right, that's a clean sweep for Fulham wins. Millwall travelling to Barnsley. Obviously, Barnsley lost to Nottingham Forest earlier in the week, and as we touched on, Millwall beat Bristol City. Marcus, I think it's probably fair to say that Millwall they'll be up for this one. I think they'll fancy getting 3 points at Oakwell.
Yeah, I know it was only a 1-0 scoreline in the end, but I felt like Gary Rowett was a little bit more attacking and a little bit more open, through caution to the wind a little bit more than he usually does against Bristol City. Obviously, with Barnsley under pressure, Marcus Schopp under extreme scrutiny to get them out of this mess, it's kind of a nice position for Millwall to come into this match. We'll have to wait and see the lineups and how big of a part Jed Wallace is going to play. But it's a nice opportunity for Millwall to get back-to-back wins. Obviously, Barnsley going down 3-1 against Nottingham Forest was a disappointing result in midweek if you consider Forest league position. So yeah, Millwall, I think, would rightfully come in as favourites and would have built a lot of confidence from that win and clean sheet in midweek. So I think, yeah, as you mentioned, they'll definitely fancy it, and I think they could be in for another 1-0 win.
Okay, yeah, no, I subscribe to that 3. I think it could be 1-0 Millwall as well. Maybe they'll become the 1-0 specialists rather than the draw specialists in the Championship. Billy, how do you see it going?
I think I'm going to go a bit more bold, and I know that as Millwall over the years don't see too many games that are won by a few goals, but I think that they could actually dispatch this Barnsley team 3-0.
Oh, okay, that would be quite emphatic for the Lions. But again, a clean sweep of victories predicted for a London club. And finally, in the Championship, QPR hosting Preston. Billy, obviously, we've mentioned QPR back to winning ways in the Championship against the Preston team that could be potentially succeeding Millwall as the draw specialist in the Championship. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, as you say, it's 5 draws in a row now for Preston. So yeah, they are trying to take the crown away from Millwall at the moment. But I think QPR are going to be back to their very best now. I think they were very deserving of their 2-0 win against Birmingham. Birmingham did create some opportunities near the start of the game, and they do move the ball quite well. But I think QPR have too much strength going forward, and yeah, I can see another QPR win in this one, but this time a little bit slimmer on the margin. I'm going to go 2-1.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I can see a 2-1 victory for QPR too. Marcus, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, full house, 2-1 QPR. I think home advantage is playing a bigger part at the Kind Prince as obviously it was last season, and I think they continue to ride that wave of optimism.
Okay, that's a clean sweep of victories we've predicted there for London clubs in the Championship. Let's look at what's going to go on in League One this weekend. As we mentioned, Marcus, at the top of the show, your team, Charlton, have got a very big game. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a relegation 6-pointer, if you want to call it that. I'm sure Charlton fans will, think that eventually you're going to get out of this, and I'm pretty confident they will. But playing Fleetwood, away at Fleetwood, it's a really big game for Nigel Adkins and obviously Charlton as well. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, Fleetwood have scored 15 goals in their last 5 games, which, considering Charlton are coming off the back of conceding 3 goals in the last 20 minutes on Tuesday night, is a little bit worrying. Fleetwood will be confident. Nigel Adkins has also made 23 changes to the starting 11 in the last 4 games. So it's a little bit hard. You don't really know what the team's going to look like until 2 p.m. on Saturday. So with that in mind, I think Charlton will compete, but Fleetwood will be full of confidence against a side that lacks it, clearly. So I'm going to go to, sadly, 2-1 to Fleetwood.
Okay. We'll move away from that prediction quickly for you then, Marcus. Billy, how do you see this one going? Can you give Charlton fans any hope this weekend?
Unfortunately not. No, my result is just as miserable. I think Fleetwood as well, they're 20th at the moment, but they're unbeaten in their last 6 against teams like Plymouth, Rotherham, Sunderland and MK Dons. So they can compete against the very best. And I know that Charlton obviously haven't started the season very well, but they possess a squad that should be competing at the top end of the division. But it's just a very difficult time at the moment. I can't see anything other than a Fleetwood win here. So I'm going to go 3-2 Fleetwood.
Okay. I'm going to go for a draw. I think, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just trying to give Charlton fans a little bit of hope. But then again, maybe if Charlton lose and Atkins does get sacked, in the long run, that might be better for the Addicts. I don't know. But yeah, I can see a draw potentially between the two clubs. But it's certainly a must-win game for Nigel Adkins and the Addicts this weekend up at Fleetwood. The other League One game involving a London club sees Wimbledon host Burton Albion. Billy, Wimbledon, obviously, we mentioned earlier on in the week, lost to Rotherham. Burton got back to winning ways, beating Portsmouth. So it's going to be a tough game for them, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And I think this is where we should see a grittier Wimbledon turn up, a team that's perhaps not as expensive as they have been, just to secure that win and stop that sort of run from spreading, really. And if they are able to do that, I can see them getting a positive result out of this. I think I'll go for a 1-0 win Wimbledon's way.
Okay, I'm going to predict that it's going to be open, as it so often is with Wimbledon. I'm going to go 3-2 to the Dons. Marcus, how do you see this one playing out?
I think Mark Robinson might be looking over his shoulder a little bit and attempting to stop the rot here. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank likes to prioritise the defensive side of the game at Burton, so I think they might get a 0-0.
Okay, we will see what plays out there. Just before we go, let's talk about the two League Two clubs from the capital. It's Sutton United and Leyton Orient that we've obviously not managed to talk about too much so far in the show. They obviously weren't playing early this week, but we'll talk about them now. Leyton Orient travelled to Port Vale in what is a very eye-catching game near the top of the League Two table. Port Vale in fourth, Leyton Orient in second, just a point between them. Billy, it's a great opportunity for Orient to lay a marker down against another team that are potentially going to be promotion rivals or playoff rivals this season. But having said that, it's also an opportunity for them to slip up.
Definitely, I think Leyton Orient have been brilliant against the promotion hopefuls this season, and Port Vale have seemingly snuck in there. Didn't have the best of starts, I don't think, and then they've suddenly sort of put a run of form in together, and now they look a very strong side. But Leyton Orient, for me, I've spoken about them very highly this season. Kenny Jackett, obviously a brilliant manager, and he's proven himself at this level. In terms of the squad they have as well, I think they've got goals from pretty much everywhere at the moment. I think Leyton Orient are in for a really good season here, and I think that will continue with a 2-1 win against Port Vale.
Okay, Marcus, you backing Orient to get a win this weekend?
I'm not. I disagree with Billy on this one. I think Vale coming into this one, winning their last three on the bounce. Underlying numbers-wise, they're one of, if not the best team in the league, particularly in the last few weeks. I think Leyton Orient struggled against Mansfield Town when we were expecting a win last week, a bore draw 0-0 in that one. I think it's a tough ask for them on the road. Vale, one of the bigger teams in League Two. I think they can kick on and get a 2-1 win.
Okay, we will see what happens there. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between the two sides. Obviously, both going really well, so I think they might just cancel each other out. That might be a better point for Orient in the long run. We shall see. Finally, let's talk Sutton United. They're playing Northampton Town this weekend. It's going to be a tough game for Sutton. Obviously, they're sitting 14th in the league. Northampton as high as 5th at the moment. Marcus, it's a trip for Sutton to Sixfields. What sort of case can you make for them getting a victory here?
I think it'll be tough. Northampton have been really good defensively of late. Have struggled going forward. They've been mainly relying on set pieces, a bit like the Cardiff of League Two, but doing a little bit more successfully under John Brady. I think Sutton will be content if they can just keep their unbeaten run going. Obviously, have picked up some form after concerningly lingering towards the bottom end of League Two in the opening stretch of matches. So I'm actually going to go for another goalless draw here, sadly. League Two has been a little low scoring at the start of this season. I think Northampton games in particular, Sutton have been decent defensively, particularly at home in recent weeks. I think they can take that on the road. So yeah, I'm going to go for a goalless draw.
Okay, I think Northampton might just edge this one personally. 1-0 to the Cobblers, I can see it being. Billy, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, George. I think Sutton have been impressive. 3 wins from the last 4. They sort of turned the corner from a difficult start. They weren't necessarily playing badly, but they weren't getting the results that perhaps their performances had suggested, really. Northampton, very, very tough outfit, managed games very well. And for that reason, I'm agreeing with your 1-0 scoreline.
Okay, we'll see what happens. It's still a good test for Sutton, obviously coming up into League 2 from last season. Northampton dropping down from League 1. Really good opportunity for United to test themselves against a side that's obviously highly fancied up near the top of the table. Okay, that brings an end to this week's EFL London show. Billy, Marcus, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. We'll be back next Thursday for another edition of the EFL London show. In the meantime, if you can subscribe to us on YouTube, Football League World TV, that would be greatly appreciated. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Do like us and follow us, Football League World. That's the place to be for your EFL coverage. Marcus, Billy, as I said, thank you very much for joining me. And until next time, it's bye for now.